What's up guys, my name is Ace, and we're now a little over a month into XDefiant, and the preseason is coming to an end. We're just about to launch into Season 1, and I thought it would be a good idea at this point to just touch base again and share my thoughts and experiences and opinions on XDefiant now that we're beyond that honeymoon phase. I know I did make an initial impressions video when the game first launched, but obviously with videos like that, that's with very limited playtime. That's so early on that players really haven't figured out all the ins and outs of the game, myself included. Whereas now that we've got over a month of playtime with it, things have started to settle in a lot more, and I would say we're over that hump of the honeymoon phase. And that's why I wanted to share my updated thoughts and opinions and experiences with XDefiant. Keeping in mind, this is going to be quite a subjective video. I'm just sharing my personal thoughts on this. And the first question I want to answer here is, am I still enjoying XDefiant? And the answer to that is absolutely yes, and I honestly wish I had more time to play this game. With my newborn baby, I don't have that much time for gaming at the moment, so I'm really only able to squeeze in the odd hour here or there every now and then. And anytime I do have that little bit of time to play, I'm honestly still leaning more in the direction of wanting to play XDefiant over Modern Warfare 3, and Call of Duty is my bread and butter. That's my main game. And I really don't even hate Modern Warfare 3. Out of the modern Call of Duties, I quite like Modern Warfare 3, but still, even a month later with XDefiant, I would rather be playing this game than Modern Warfare 3 right now. And I think part of that is due to the fact that I'm still grinding, I'm still unlocking attachments, I have things that I'm actively working toward in XDefiant, whereas in Modern Warfare 3, there's not much of that for me anymore. But even with that, I think that really says something for XDefiant. I could have easily just dropped this game and continued on with my main game where I make the vast majority of my income on YouTube, but anytime I hop on, I'm genuinely leaning more toward playing XDefiant than Modern Warfare 3. So let's talk about some of the things that I like about XDefiant still. And the first thing is just the core gameplay loop, the way that the matches tend to flow, the map design, the spawn design, outside of Occupy. I don't play a whole lot of Occupy. I realize for some people they have some problems with spawns on Occupy. But for Domination or even the new Team Deathmatch mode, I find the spawns to be quite intuitive, and I just like the way things flow and play. I said it before and I'll say it again, this is very reminiscent of older school Call of Duty games, and I really like that. Additionally, the lack of SBMM, I think, is really keeping me around. It feels really rewarding to improve over time, and even with the limited playtime that I've got, I've actually noticed personal improvement as I've started to figure out more things with the game. Every time I learn something or pick some little tip up, I can implement that into my gameplay, and I see real results with my gameplay improving over time because I've focused on improving. And that I just find to be really refreshing. It also makes me really excited for each match because you honestly never know what you're gonna get. Every time you search for a match, it's something different and it's organic. You just get what you get. Sometimes you get an easy match, sometimes you get a hard match. And it's nice knowing that none of that is determined algorithmically. It's just, you get what you get and you roll with the punches. And I really find that refreshing coming from COD. As for the next thing that has always been a sticking point for me with XDefiant from the beginning, even the early tests, this is that general controller feel. Now that I've been able to get more and more time with XDefiant, I've got to say I've really got used to that controller feel a whole lot more than before, and it's definitely feeling better just due to putting the time in and getting the experience with it. I will say it's still not quite as smooth as COD on controller, and I'm not even talking about aim assist here, I'm just talking about manipulating your character and moving around the map. But with XDefiant, I can now manage a lot better with the controller, and I'm not finding nearly as much frustration of the controller just not feeling like it's responding the way that I would expect it to respond. So I'm definitely not saying the controller feel is perfect by any means. I just wanted to mention that I'm getting a better feel for it, and that has definitely helped with my experience as well. Next up, one of my big gripes early on with XDefiant was weapon leveling, especially for attachments. Not so much with the mastery camos. I don't care how long that grind takes, because that's something that has nothing to do with your gameplay experience. That's just something where if you want to put the time in to get those cosmetic rewards, great, that's totally fine. And if you don't, that's fine as well. But my issue early on was the weapon leveling was insanely slow, to the point where it was actually starting to turn me away from the game a little bit. I just felt like you had to grind so many hours with a gun just to get the decent attachments so you could actually start taking full advantage of the power of that gun. And in the process, you end up playing against people that just stick to one or two guns that they've had max level from the beginning, so they just have a super clear advantage over you as you're struggling through with an arm tied behind your back. And I definitely don't mind starting from scratch and having a bit of a grind to get to the good attachments. But when the game first launched, especially if you couldn't take advantage of double XP weekends, which I rarely get to play much on weekends, that grind for a single gun just took way too long. Now, over the past month, they actually ended up making two different changes. The first change wasn't super popular. The second change, though, to weapon XP, I think was about as good as it's going to get, considering the fact that the game has already launched and they can't just scrap everything and start from scratch. But effectively what they've done here, and I know these aren't exact numbers, they've made it so you unlock all of your attachments roughly twice as fast as at launch, Whereas with the mastery camos, it's still going to take a fair amount of grinding to get those mastery camos. And that's pretty much exactly what I wanted to see. I also really appreciate the fact that they made this change retroactive. So immediately when this update hit, a lot of your weapon levels just shot way up, and suddenly you had access to way more attachments if you hadn't already maxed that gun out. So I do think they handled that fairly well the second time around, at least. And this will segue into the next thing that I quite like about what they've done with XDefiant since launch. This was the addition of Team Deathmatch. I think this was a nice addition to the game, even though this game is very clearly designed around objective game modes, and the general gameplay loop with a balanced lobby is definitely better for objective game modes than Team Deathmatch. But the thing I like about Team Deathmatch in this game is when I want to play solo, if you have a really high skill rating, the team balancing can really screw you over. And that's extra frustrating in objective game modes because there's really only so much one player is able to do, managing not only outslaying the enemy team, but also ensuring that you're playing the objective or getting your teammates toward the objective. That can be extremely difficult when you're just so far above anyone else on your team and they're not able to do anything. Even though you can play well as an individual, it's rarely enough to be able to carry the entire match. That I found to be really frustrating, whereas in Team Deathmatch, I can just kind of focus on my own thing. I do the best that I can do. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but at least in Team Deathmatch, all you have to do is focus on doing your own thing and playing as well as you can. And another thing that I love about Team Deathmatch in this game right now is there are really big XP boosts for going on streaks in Team Deathmatch specifically. And that's actually provided a huge incentive for me to play this mode and to play this game as well, because I can shoot through weapon levels super fast now, and I've found that to be quite enjoyable. Additionally, when we're talking about changes that have come since the launch of the game, let's talk about sniper flinch. I think they handled this quite well. I think snipers are in a significantly better state now. Now, don't get me wrong, I still get sniped, and sometimes even when I'm shooting the enemy, I'm still getting sniped. But I generally find that it's a lot less frustrating now to get sniped when shooting somebody that has a sniper rifle, because I know that I'm at least applying flinch to them, and the odds of them hitting their shot are significantly less, especially if I'm landing headshots against them, because with headshots in this game, it causes snipers to flinch downwards. And downwards flinch is very difficult for them to account for. So I really like the fact that they made that change. Also, they did apply a nerf to jump spam, but honestly, I don't think that really changed a whole lot, not in my experience at least, as gunfights are generally over before that jump spam nerf kicks in. And to me, it's still primarily the air strafing combined with the netcode not being ideal. That's the primary issue with jump shotting, in my opinion, in this game. I've adapted to it just fine. I just try to focus on using it to my advantage more than it gets used on me, and that definitely helps to a degree. I still think it's a little on the cheesy side, and I still think there is some room for improvement here, but it's not a deal breaker, and it's just something that I've gotten used to, I would say, with XDefiant. And speaking of netcode, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, again, I just want to reiterate, this is my experience. I know other people have had totally different experiences with this. But for me, since that netcode update on June 18th, I've actually noticed that it's feeling quite a bit better than it was at launch. I'm noticing fewer deaths way behind cover. I'm still getting some deaths where I'm like a little bit behind cover, but I can't recall any instances where I've died like 20 feet behind cover like I was within the launch window of the game. So it's at least tightened that area up a little bit without fully fixing it, I would say. Also, hit detection still feels off in some games, or just sometimes versus some specific enemies, where for everybody else in the match it works just fine, but there's that one guy in the game where I'm not getting hit markers on him when I really feel I should be. Or even worse, you get client-side hit markers in this game, so you get a hit marker on your screen, but that damage wasn't actually accepted by the server, and therefore it looks like you should have dealt damage, but you didn't actually deal damage to them. I find that to be very frustrating. It's not a super common occurrence for me, but when it happens, I definitely get super annoyed with that. So overall, I would say the connection experience in the netcode still has a lot of room for improvement, but it's nice to see that they have actually made progress in this area, at least for me. It has definitely been noticeably better since that netcode update, and I hope they can just continue doing this going forward and making it better and better as time goes on. In either case, those are all the general things I wanted to point out as far as things that I feel have improved over time with the game, or at least my experience with them has improved over time. Now I just wanted to talk about the few things that I find to be the most frustrating at the moment outside of netcode, because like I said, I'm still running into some netcode issues. That still is an issue for me. It still is fairly high up on my list of issues. It's just not nearly as bad as it used to be for me. The next thing I want to mention here that I hope we see some adjustments to, perhaps even for the Season 1 update coming this week, this is some ability balancing. The one big ability I think definitely needs some work is the Intel suit. This is the one where you gain wall hacks and all of your teammates in the vicinity also gain wall hacks that show the real-time location of enemy players. And this ability charges up in just 30 seconds, and if you have multiple people using it, it's just constant wall hacks all the time. And the worst part about it is there's no viable counterplay to this. I think this one just needs a little bit of work. I'm totally fine with that wall hack ability working for the one player that called it in, or maybe make it so that wall hack only shows a snapshot of players through walls in that exact moment rather than following them in real time. I don't know exactly what should be done with this, but I definitely think that some tuning is in order for this particular ability, as it can get a little bit oppressive, especially if you get several people in a match using it, because again, there's really no viable counterplay to this. And then another ability that I still think needs some work is the spider bot. I just find this thing to be so incredibly annoying and frustrating to run into. And while I don't consider it to be insanely powerful on the user's end, I just find the frustration factor on the receiving end and the bugginess with this as well to be very annoying and really detract from my gameplay experience. This isn't the video to get too in-depth with exactly what I think is wrong with it and what I think should be improved, but at the very least I would say definitely the bugs that are involved with the spider bot, I would love to see those worked out so we can see how it's actually meant to perform in game. But then on top of that, I think there should just be a little bit of more consistent counterplay, because as it is right now, I just don't think it's balanced appropriately, especially with viable, consistent counterplay. And I'm not saying it needs to be totally nerfed into the ground or removed or anything, because like I said, I don't even think it's that powerful of an ability. It's just a very frustrating ability, and some reworks I think could go a long way with this. Next, when it comes to things that can be a little bit frustrating in XDefiant, this is some of the attachments and various mechanics in the game, like recoil recovery, just don't seem to be working properly at the moment, and some things are just a little bit janky and could be tightened up and improved over time. For the most part, these don't have like a massive negative impact on the gameplay. It's just sometimes things don't really work the way they should be working, and obviously I'd like to see stuff like that improved. And then finally, for the things that I'm still not quite loving about XDefiant, I think it's still missing a lot of quality of life features. And this is something I actually made an entire video on, talking about many of the quality of life features I'd like to see come to the game. And it turns out many of those features I requested have been confirmed to be coming to the game at some point. So it looks like these things are going to be coming and the game will continue to improve over time. I just hope many of them come sooner rather than later. If you guys are interested in checking that video out, by the way, I will leave a link to that in the description down below. And that's pretty much it for the things I wanted to talk about with my 1 month in impressions with XDefiant. Overall, it seems XDefiant is holding up fairly well. I'm still itching to play it whenever I get a chance, and I think that's an excellent sign. And I'm really looking forward to Season 1 dropping this coming week. Now, of course, I am really curious to hear from you guys, though, in the comments down below. Now that we've had XDefiant out for over a month, how are you feeling about this game? Are you still playing the game and enjoying it a lot? Or are you somebody that started playing the game and completely quit or just slowed down with your gameplay time? And if you are one of those people, I'd love to know exactly why. What pushed you away from this game? And what could be done, if anything, to bring you back? If you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.